ever heard of Nightmare? Like a lot of other horror games in the 90s, it came with a VHS which you timed with your play. The character on the video would give you instructions on what to do while you play the game in real time. Being a scaredy cat, I refused to play it when my mom bought it for us. My brother was disappointed about not being able to play Nightmare, but my mom had a solution. She brought out Rap Rat. It was a cheap, dingy little character catered towards kids my age. You went around the board, collected cheese, and the first player to reach the end would win. It seemed simple enough, and since it reminded us of Mousetrap, which we didn't have at the time, there was no objections. We popped the movie into the VHS and set up the board. The first part of the video was just a simple explanation of the rules as well as instructions on how the game worked. Then Rap Rat came onto the TV. He was not what any of us had been expecting. My smaller brother, who was only 3 at the time, immediately left the room crying. The rat did not even resemble a rat. The ears were far too big, it had a little mouth lined with 2 teeth, the inside of the mouth looked almost swollen. The most striking part of the thing, though, was the eyes. They were large, glassy, and fish-like. I asked, then bothered, then begged my mom to turn it off. Rap Rat suddenly shouted loudly, screaming and wailing, saying, "Wait your turn!" in a demonic, low-pitched voice that was not at all like his normal, obnoxious nasal voice in the background. You could hear the narrator saying he's Rap Rat and he's the boss over and over in a seriously tone. The video was indescribable. Images crossed the screen in quick succession, overcut with Rap Rat's expressionless eyes. The image were some sort of things I was afraid of at the time. A person looking over a balcony, a hornet slowly stinging someone's eye, an extreme close-up of a tarantula, a pit full of writhing cobras, and a bloodied syringe filled with green fluid. We immediately turned the video and I ran out of the room screaming, slamming my door. It took my mom 20 minutes to convince me that the video was gone and that I would never ever see it again. I had nightmares all week about Rap Rat. That wasn't the last time I saw Rap Rat. While my girlfriend and I were preparing to move in together, I was cleaning out my closet of my room and found Rap Rat again, with the same VHS and the same board game inside. It was almost perfectly intact, save for a thick layer of cobwebs, dust bunnies, and some dust on top of it. This was strange. Didn't my mom get rid of it? And what was the game doing in my room? I let out a bit of gasping when I found it, and my girlfriend came into my room asking what was the matter. Breathing harshly, I said Rap Rat. She laughed a bit, asking if I was joking. I shook my head, explaining that I wasn't. She didn't believe me. Nobody did. And I decided that the only way to prove it to her was to show her the video. I borrowed my neighbor's VHS that day and played it for her. However, the images had changed. I saw a clown, its nose bruising and spraying blood on the screen. I saw a woman alone in the dark room. I saw a man being forced to pick up white hot metal and hold it in its outstretched hand, turning its hand to a leathery mess. The scratching I heard as the child continued, picking up louder and louder. Then Rap Rat showed up again and began twisting and convulsing, its arms thrusting this way and that. The costume wasn't a costume anymore. The felt was real fur. Its face wasn't plastic, but instead a brisk of thorns with teeth. The eyes turned inwards and suddenly popped out again. Rap Rat's huge fish eyes were inside out, staring right at me, watching my every move, my every expression. And it grinned widely and gestured at my girlfriend and I with a single outstretched, inhuman hand. I could hear the faintest scratching on my door. The TV went blank and showed static. The scratching got louder. It wasn't scratching anymore, but thumping. The thumping of tiny feet on my wood. My girlfriend embraced me in fear and my senses kicked in. Before anything else could happen, I stopped the video, ejected, and unplugged the VHS. The scratching stopped. When I looked out the living room window, nothing. Nothing was there. The police showed up soon afterwards, warning us that a neighbor had seen a figure outside of our door and called in concern. My girlfriend and I simply couldn't explain what had happened and had to tell the officers that it was us. I was furious that a children's game was terrifying me. I went to pick up the tape, but the VHS burned my hand. It felt that I had touched a Bunsen burner on the highest possible setting. We had to get oven mitts from the kitchen in order to take it out, and even then, it was scorching hot. I brought it outside, tossed it on the sidewalk, and crushed it in my winter boots. My girlfriend and I had nightmares every night. We would both wake up in the middle of the night and describing eerily similar images that we had seen in our sleep. The scratching would always be there at night, and when the lights were off and the room was pitch black save for the moonlight coming from the window. Now though, the scratching would happen every time I went near the front door and every time we said a Rap Rat's name. It sounded as if something very small was dragging something across the ground outside the door, pacing and waiting. I would simply wait, with the covers pulled up to my neck until I succumbed to the exhaustion. At this point, I was determined to sue the company for damages. The first thing I did was call my mother and ask her where she got Rap Rat. She had no idea. I found a merchant who sold versions of Rap Rat and asked how I could get in touch with the company. He, sent me this email. I don't know about the game, but I know it was created by the same people who created Nightmare. The company is called A Couple of Cowboys. Try that. I did a bit more research and discovered that the company became defunct in 1994. Only 2 years after the company created Rap Rat. I discovered why they did soon after. In 1992, the year of the game's development, A Couple of Cowboys had commissioned a manufacturing company in Hatiti to create the doll portrayed in the game. The company who created the puppet ran a sweatshop, where they forced women and children to produce the various components of the puppet, including the felt and plastic of the doll. One day, a young Hatitian girl had her arm cut in the industrial sewing machine. The spring loader, unable to handle the weight of the machine, came loose and struck the child's neck, killing her instantly. A few days after the funeral, the mother of the child came to the factory, demanding to see the owner, who denied that he had anything to do with it. In a fit of rage, the mother said that the blood from the innocent would seep into every conceived of the doll. Every component with which it was created, and all who touch it will die. She claimed to have summoned a fear demon and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Apparat will curse you!" The owner simply laughed and told his corporate bosses about Apparat. They spread the joke from person to person, and the game was renamed to Rap-A-Rat, a loose anagram of Apparat. Each recitation of the name Apparat brought it with it a greater and greater curse. Only 2 years after Rap-Rat was created, the company was shut down and the owners were hired by Mattel. There were stories of the workers begging for days off, skipping work for weeks and weeks, finding the puppet in strange places. Sooner were the stories of suicides, grim, violent suicides in which the workers would stab their hands, burn themselves to death, writing, "I am fear" on the nearest surface in blood. Nobody knows where the Rap Rat doll went after the original creators disappeared. Some say that the last things the victims saw before going insane were large, sunken, fish-like eyes. And here are some words of warning. Number 1. Never say Apparat out loud. Saying a demon's name out loud is an invitation to them, a calling, if you could say. If you have already done this, it can't be undone. Number 2. Do not try to speak or contact Apparat. Number 3. Avoid being awake between 3:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. when Rap Rat is the most likely to try and scare you. The VHS is back. After I stomped on it, smashed it to Kingdom Come, but it's back. I found it in my sock drawer yesterday. This time, I was ready. A whole bunch of people have been contacting me, trying to get the tape or some sort of video from the board game. My answer to you that it's too dangerous. If I did that, I could very well drive you insane, scare you to death even. The video, the game, and Rap Rat itself have some sort of strange power. Rap Rat follows me everywhere I go. I see little shadows in the corner or hear sounds coming from the hallway when I'm the only one home. If Rap Rat is there, it will let you know, but it will never let you see it until it's too late, of course. A lot of people have been watching the normal video from the normal board game. That's the thing. Rap Rat can be normal. It will trick you into thinking it's just a puppet and stalk you day and night. And just like that, an underrated gem is over with. So let's talk about it. So one thing that I like about this story is that it's somewhat real, mainly the board game. The board game is real from the research I've done. The story behind it and origin is completely fake. It's not true. I looked everywhere. There's no article or any newspaper heading or any story about it that suggests that someone died while making this game. No. Alright, so yeah. And honestly, I want to get to that point right there. I do like how the story goes that angle where it was a disgruntled old employee that unfortunately lost a daughter while making this board game or working there. But the part that I don't like is where supposedly the employees all start killing themselves and gouging their eyes. Like, really? They could have just said that the equipment was becoming faulty and they were hearing and things. They could have done the generic, ghost, haunted workplace kind of angle. Instead, they decided to go all licious and core, include gore and bloods and everything, where they just start gouging their eyes and committing mass suicide. It's like, bro, it's not needed. It could have been fine without it. It doesn't really add anything other to the story than take you out of it, if I'm being honest. My other problem with the story is the fact that it uses a demon explanation to sort of explain why this whole occurrence happened with the author, which is kind of dumb. It's very genetic and it doesn't really try to play anything with that. It just gives it one explanation. It would have been nice if they given multiple explanations as to why the main character experienced what he did. I think if they were gonna go the demon route, I think it would have been interesting where the main character received a bunch of reports or stories from other people who have played the same games or the same game and have gotten similar experiences, hearing crawls in the wood or all this and that. I think it would have been nice, but no, it doesn't play into any of that, and it sucks. It sucks that it didn't do that, because honestly, this story has a lot of potential that it could reach, especially in an obscure game like this. It could have done so much more, but there are some positives to talk about. Now, I do like how this story does use a very obscure board game like Rap Rat, and actually, because of how obscure it is, it actually sort of mixes the search results of the story, making it, it makes it harder to believe if the story, or the game I should say, is real in and of itself, if someone created this. And no, the board game was real. It was real. It was in 1992, I believe, created. And it's very obscure, and from the reviews, it is not a very fun board game. But the video itself is creepy, kind of, cheesy, and I could see why some kids would find it, unsettling. And yeah, I do like how very realistic the first part of the story is. We all have, that one thing we were scared as kids, and looking back as an adult, you find some things cheesy. So I do like how it plays into that. And I do also like how it doesn't try to, overreact or try to be dramatic with how the character handles the VHS when he becomes an adult. Like, nothing paranormal or crazy really happens aside from the VHS being hot and then later on being, real. And honestly, I do like that only one weird occurrence happens, and that's it. It really is just up to the main character, whether or not he's actually hallucinating, or if he's, suffering from some sort of PTSD from his childhood, traumatic. It could be explained, and that's what I like, is what he experienced really happening, or is it just, all in his head? And I like how there's no clear answer towards the end of the story, and even after the end of the story, it leaves you wondering, did the main character conquer, was it all real? Did everyone experience it? Or was he really just the only one? Or was the whole thing imaginative? I don't know, and I do like how it's up for the reader's interpretation. So, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos and my social medias. They will be in the description below, along with the original story. And with that being said, I am out.